I've recently been given the opportunity to slow down in life. So, in other words, it's a nice way of saying unemployment post grad is going great. It's given me a chance to slow down, and I think most times in this situation, we rush and we pressure ourselves into thinking that that's not necessarily a good thing, that we have to keep going on to the next thing, that we're wasting time. And I'm really trying not to fall into that headspace. I think this time in my life has been teaching me a lot about acceptance and just about accepting where you are in life, accepting the choices that you've made, choices that other people have made, and just realizing that you just have to keep moving forward. I think adulthood has been such a reality check in a lot of ways. And when I was making these videos, a lot of these videos were things that meant a lot to me, and I had written about, and I had felt these things. And I was really trying to create and to be consistent. But it got to a point where I didn't really know what videos I was making, what videos I wanted to make, what I wanted to do. And a lot of that was because I just felt lost, not just as an artist, but as a person. And those two are inherently so linked that, you're bound to feel that way. You're bound to feel lost when you are kind of going through personal things, or you're going through a transitional phase in your life and whatnot. And for me, because my art is always so emotionally linked, it just is so hard for me to create when I don't feel that connection. And I think that's really scary as an artist, when you don't feel connected to your work and you don't feel gravitated towards it. And so, for me, that's usually a sign that I need to kind of evaluate. And I think at the time I was just dealing with a lot of, identity issues, because you're growing into this person that you've never met before, this version of yourself that, you're not familiar with. And for me, I just moved away from home and I was dealing with that. And, you're learning about your values as a person and your ideologies of the world. And I think a lot of that, just feeling lost, I had spent so much time and energy thinking of, how do I get back to this person? How do I feel like myself again? How do I get back to that version of myself that I was so comfortable with? And what I've come to realize over the course of time is that it's not necessarily about getting back to a version of yourself. If anything, the only way I can describe it is it feels like I keep meeting myself and catching up to myself. And I guess that's where I realized it's not really about getting back to a place or getting back to a version of yourself. It's about meeting yourself where you are and finding yourself as you move forward. And that's what I wasn't really understanding at the time. Had time to reflect. And it was really just about finding space for yourself. And again, back to that idea of acceptance, of accepting things that you've done and the choices that you've made and the path that you've chosen or that life has chosen for you. And sometimes we're not okay with that, but we have to learn to accept it and to move forward with that. And I think for me, a large part of that also went hand in hand with things that I was dealing with in my life and learning acceptance and lessons through those specific things. And holding grace for myself. I just realized I was trying to not only be, but also create from this space that I had essentially outgrown. And that is such a scary concept. When you are so new to adulthood and so new to getting to know this version of yourself in this world that is so beyond your ability to comprehend. And so a large part of why I want to make videos now is because I feel like I'm finally in a space that feels truer to me and feels better. I don't feel as lost. I think we're constantly lost, but there are parts of ourselves that can not necessarily bring us back. I think it's always with us, but I think it just brings it to the surface and brings, the things that we like and the things that we love and the things that inspire us and, help us to create and help us to thrive. We could always use a little bit more of that. And so I guess I just wanted to come on here as I'm feeling a little bit inspired to do that. Because it's hard. It's hard when you are so disconnected from the one thing that makes you feel anchored to the world. It's hard. And so when you finally find that inspiration and you finally find that love again, I think it's important to act on it. But yes, it's not been an easy journey, and it won't be. But we're here. We're painting. I'm not a painter by any means, and clearly by my setup, this is all like, this is craft paint. It's not even actual like student grade acrylic paint or anything. So but we just create for fun sometimes. That's all that matters. I think there's just been so much happening in my life that makes me realize sometimes all this pressure that we put on ourselves, at the end of the day, it won't really matter. Maybe that's just my experience with loss and grief and looking at it from the perspective of that. But there will be a day where everything will be okay. And this will merely just be a memory, an experience, a lesson, a story. I'm not trying to put pressure on myself to create, but the whole point of me making this channel was to find the beauty in everyday life. And I think even in our most difficult moments, that is sometimes where the most beautiful moments end up being. Eventually. I think in the moment, obviously, the hardship, heartbreak, pain is always so difficult, especially in this world. But when we're lucky enough to see the other side, and maybe some time has passed, that's when we can appreciate it. When we can find meaning in it. And when we can share it and hope that it connects us. Just like this. I think the process of meeting yourself over and over again, while it gets extremely exhausting, is so rewarding. And that's pretty beautiful if you ask me. So wherever you are in life, maybe this makes sense. Maybe it's just a bunch of mumbling. Maybe one day it'll make sense. It's funny because I was just telling a friend of mine about this experience I had. And it was when my baby cousin came to visit. Well, my cousin came to visit, and she brought her baby. And it was just the timing of everything and how old I am now. But I was looking at this kid, and I just was thinking, somehow, I mean, the closest way possible without actually being its parent, or being a parent for that matter. And I just remember thinking, I understand. Nothing else in my life at that moment mattered except for this kid. And nothing else in my life mattered in that moment but that moment. And I was just looking at this kid and was thinking, I want to be the best version of myself for you. I want you to look at me and feel inspired to live your life truthfully, happily, all of the above. To do what makes you happy, to not be afraid in the way that I was afraid. It's just this idea that there's so much bad in the world, and I unfortunately can't do anything to stop the bad from happening. But I can try to be as much good as I can for you and for me. In that moment, I guess I just realized for the first time how little and how much different things mattered, and how there's just so much beyond my purview at the moment of what there is to life and what there is to this world. It just changes your perspective. What matters in the world. What you want to matter in the world. In a time when you don't really have as much control in your life as you want. It's a good reminder that sometimes you still have some control. You can dictate what matters in your life and what doesn't. To find beauty in the world. Yeah. So, well, this isn't really coming out how I want it to. Basically, there was a perfect photo that I wanted to take, and I couldn't take it because I was driving. And so instead, I'm trying to paint the memory, and it's not quite working because I'm not a painter, and I have no reference photo. So I was trying to create on the fly, which is not my strong suit, and it's not working. But it's okay. I was just here for the experience. And just to talk. So, I'm gonna stop before I mess all of this up. And I will try to do better at finding a reference photo. I have no idea what I'm doing. Again, we're accepting. Accepting that this is not turning out how I wanted it to. But it's okay.